So thank you. As introduced, my name is Bob Ivy, and I'm excited about being with you all here today and discussing a very timely topic that we are working on in fossil energy, which is how we can enable the carbon capture business model. Here at DOE, we believe that technological innovation can turn waste into useful products. That's why over the past year we've been working relentlessly on developing market-driven regional approaches to help accelerate the deployment of carbon capture technologies within the industrial sector. Many industrial processes like ethanol production, oil refining, and steel making produce carbon dioxide, or CO2, as a byproduct. Sometimes these processes result in relatively pure CO2 streams, and almost always industry simply releases it into the atmosphere. But what if we could put that CO2 to work instead of releasing it? It turns out that some industries like oil and gas already view CO2 as a commodity. But instead of buying CO2 that's emitted into the air, they're buying naturally occurring CO2 because it was easier and cheaper than tapping CO2 from industrial processes. Now that has changed. Through the work that DOE and industry has accomplished, the expense of capturing CO2 from some industrial processes is now cost effective. Therefore, we now have the business case that we can capture CO2 from industrial processes. In addition, oil companies currently conducting enhanced oil recovery, or EOR, are looking to expand their operations into other fields. However, they're constrained by the availability of CO2. The response to the CO2 deficit is to expand CO2 sources. Industrial platforms appear to be the fastest avenue to implement the increased desire for CO2 supply through carbon capture technologies. Projects such as the Archer Daniels Midland plant in Decatur, Illinois, and the Petra Nova plant in Thompson, Texas, are examples of this business case. In order to do these industrial processes, they will need to be developed holistically with a tie to CO2 injection. In the ADM case, the business model is tied to tax credits for saline injection. However, the more expansive case, as with the Petra Nova project, will probably be done by partnering the industrial CO2 supplier with an EOR oil company. EOR is currently the sole demand that supports a CO2 capture business case without any kind of carbon tax credits. Yep, getting wild there. All right. The Petra Nova project's in Thompson, Texas, and just went live in December of last year. Petra Nova will capture approximately 90% of the CO2 emissions from one of the units in the power plant and sell that CO2 to an oil field 83 miles away in West Ranch, Texas. The oil field managers will use the CO2 to increase oil production from 500 barrels a day to 15,000 barrels per day. This means a previous waste product will improve and secure domestic energy by ensuring we use the full potential of our existing projects and resources. Over the life of the project, some 60 million barrels of oil are projected to be produced at West Ranch, Texas. The Petra Nova project and those like it will combine innovative technology with novel financing models and stakeholders to create a new marketplace for vital industry. These strategic joint ventures bring together electric power generators, carbon dioxide technology vendors, CO2 pipeline builders, EOR field operators, and the banking community. Already, one such project has applied for the first ever advanced fossil energy loan from DOE's loan office. This technology is especially exciting because it gives an avenue ahead for heavy industries such as the next generation steelmaking plants to start supplying CO2 through their power generation capabilities. Just a quick piece of, you can see the Petra Nova project, and what we've actually done here is the addition of the carbon capture. So what we're talking here is one unit, here's the coal, and what the CO2 then goes through is a process by which it is purified, dehydrated, and then compressed, and it goes to the EOR site. In order to expand EOR, we're going to need more sources of CO2. To put it to scale, the little blue line here is what's available naturally. The yellow is what we can get through industrial. This is what's available if we go to EOR. So if we maximize both levels, we're talking some 20 billion tons of CO2 captured for some 67 billion barrels of oil. So it's quite a big deal. Currently, the typical source of CO2 is naturally occurring CO2 dome. These domes are confined by location and are becoming more expensive as EOR expands. We could better enable EOR by expanding industrial capture. This will support EOR expansion by providing CO2 sources closer to EOR locations, as well as providing CO2 at a stable contracted price, rather than oil companies absorbing the increasing costs of CO2 domes. The carbon dioxide from industrial sources presents a unique opportunity to supply more enhanced oil recovery sites. The industrial CO2 development will create thousands of construction jobs and hundreds of permanent jobs. These jobs will stimulate and support thousands of indirect regional jobs, including those in coal. They will help ensure the existing industries, like manufacturing, remain competitive in a worldwide market while enabling energy security through CO2 EOR. These projects aren't just good for our energy security, they're also good for our economy. We know that in order to accelerate the development of these projects and technologies, we have to meet stakeholders and listen to what they say. Since 2016, we have thrown ourselves wholeheartedly into this engagement, meeting with stakeholders and advocates in both the public and private sectors. For example, we hosted an industrial capture forum in the Gulf region, which was attended by some 44 public and private participants representing state and federal government, CO2 providers and users, policy enablers, and financiers. We're prepared to start planning similar meetings across the country. The pilot reaffirmed that the industrial projects will need to be developed holistically with a tie to CO2 injection. That means is that if we capture a molecule CO2, we need to be able to inject it someplace for the business to work. It has to be holistic, otherwise you can't get the business plan. The third piece of that is what I've already talked about, the financing. Any DOE regional engagement will need to focus on the key human factor of business decisions. DOE will enable this business decision process by convening industrial and finance sectors that typically don't work together nor talk to each other, as well as providing timely and accurate information on the latest related technologies and their potential application to regional development. The United States has long been a leader in technology and economic innovation, and DOE is committed to ensuring that's where we remain. The experience of the past year has shown us that we may not be able to expand technology in every area of the country, but we can now expand into key regions where business case is quickly developing. These regions could include further expansion in the Gulf region where we did the pilot, for example, doing a Houston Ship Channel project, as well as starting new regional places such as the Illinois Basin, the Great Northern Plains, some work possible in California and in Appalachia. After years of research and experience, we're ready to deploy innovative carbon capture technology in more industrial sectors. The timing couldn't be better. Opportunity abounds across the country to create new partnerships in mature marketplaces. In conclusion, we are excited about the potential opportunities, and we have a lot to look forward to in making them happen. As I wrap up, a little side note, for those of you that watch this presentation after it's been archived, we will attach a video clip on animation on how the carbon is captured at Petra Nova and injected at West Plains. Thank you very much.
In this process, we take flue gas from the power plant. We run it through a very large vessel where a solvent called amine captures the carbon dioxide, and in that way we're able to pump the solvent over to a contained vessel, heat it up a little bit, and the CO2 comes out of the socket and is segregated in a pure CO2 stream. It's that carbon dioxide gas that we compress and send to the oil field to get oil. This particular oil field is really at the end of life. It's only producing about 500 barrels a day. With enhanced oil recovery from carbon dioxide, we expect that to go over 15,000 barrels a day.